Talk about nailing your toxic wine-based exploding hobo.
You're still listening. This is our final transmission.
We're here.
We are here. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Jamie. How are you?
I'm not too bad at all. How about you?
Tip top, my old friend. I'm killing it over here, having a wonderful day. How's your life?
It's good. I've just taken a big old swig of some Tenafly Viper, so any minute now I'll be melting into a big, lovely neon pot of goo.
That's some spicy stuff. You gotta go easy on Grandpa's old cough syrup. What color would you be if you melted, do you think?
I don't know. That's a really good question and one that I was not expecting.
I think you'd either be the color of that beautiful guitar behind you or your hat.
Yeah.
So we're talking either a burnt orange or a light forest green.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today, Sammy?
Today, we're talking about the 1987 grindhouse flick, Street Trash, directed by J. Michael Moreau, according to his IMDb page, affectionately referred to as Jim Moreau.
Yep.
This is a film that is going to be polarizing for our audience, to say the least.
This film is exactly everything that I want in a film.
It's your dream movie made flesh.
Kinda. Because it's like, I mean, we'll get into it, obviously, but it's like trauma mindset shot by people that kind of know what they're fucking doing.
Mm-hmm.
With like some nous about them and a bit more self-awareness that manifests itself in a way that isn't quite as goofy as a trauma. Although
it's like
there's a lot of goofiness in here, obviously, but
it's pretty cynical goofiness a lot of the time, which, I rate fairly highly. It's grimy, it's weird, it's out of place and out of step with almost everything that's happening at the time. It's a rough hang in terms of whether or not you feel like you have permission to enjoy it sometimes. But for the most part, it does a really fucking good job of doing exactly what it sets out to do, which is gross you out, make you laugh, and freak you out. So let's talk about Street Trash.
Okay, let's do that. Well, why don't we take a break?
God, I thought you'd never let me off the hook.
We'll come back and you can synopsisize the fuck out of Street Trash.
All right, see you in a minute.
See you in a sec.
Will you give it up, man? Nobody's out there. We're alone. Oh no, there's somebody out there. I'm picking up all this crosstalk.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Sam. A little Robin told me that you've got something special out for Christmas. Is that true?
A little red-breasted, loose-lipped Robin has been talking to you.
Yeah. It flew in my window, landed on my shoulder, and said, Sam's released a special Christmas record, 7-inch, with some amazing artwork and 2 great songs on it.
That's good work from the Robin, not paying that Robin enough. Yes, I put out a 7-inch this festive season. It's out on Red Scare Industries. It's called Mistletoe Pier, and it has 2 very Christmassy, holiday-themed festive jams for your listening pleasure. You can pick it up in the UK on my web store. You can pick it up from redscare.net. You can get it on Bandcamp for $2, and you can stream it everywhere you stream music.
It's seasonally appropriate. It's wonderful. You'd probably still enjoy it in March, but get on it now.
I mean, the only thing that makes it a Christmas song is saying Christmas in the first line. The rest of it is just my usual, misery. So if you enjoy misery, get stuck in.
Is Mistletoe Pier a real place?
No, absolutely not. The songs were written and inspired by Chroma Pier, which is less romantic sounding.
Yeah, so it's a fiction. I've been lied to once again by fucking Sam Russo.
My gift to you this festive season, a whole pack of lies. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. And yeah, listen to it. It's really good. It's really, really good.
Thanks. And back to the show. All right, we're back.
We are
let's
back.
Let's talk plots, synopsises and stuff. So Street Trash is a movie that does that wonderful thing where it doesn't nail itself too hard to a series of events that you could characterize as a plot, but the gist is that a liquor store owner finds kind of a crate of very old liquor that has some adverse effects on people who drink it, and it's distributed among the homeless population of a grimy, dirty, horrible area of a city, an unnamed city.
Oh, it's New York, right?
It's got to be New York, yeah.
I mean, it definitely is New York. So they shot it in Brooklyn for the most part, and then some of like the internal stuff was shot in their film offices in Manhattan.
Okay. So the central tension of Street Trash is that this booze is in circulation, and the characters that we follow around are various, and I'm going to use the phrase bums because that's the phrase used in the movie, and that's the kind of characters that they are. So we got Fred, we got Bronson, who runs the gang of tough homeless maniacs in the junkyard, and then we've got a host of other characters who kind of flood the screen and disappear at various points throughout the movie. Some hilarious, some tragic, but throughout the movie they do some terrible things to some people, and some of them explode. So that's the best summary I got.
Yeah, I think that about encapsulates it, right? It's nothing really happens, but loads of stuff happens. There's no linear plot to speak of. It's almost like a Linklater sort of day in the life picture, but the day happens to be the day that they all drink booze that makes you rot to death instantly.
Yeah, I think a Linklater reference here is generous, but we'll roll with it. I think it's worth saying in advance, this isn't a compassionate portrayal of homeless people in New York. We're using the word bums because that's how they're portrayed. They're portrayed as almost caricatures for laughs, basically. So it's amazingly lowbrow cinema from the very beginning. And speaking of the very beginning, what's the first thing that you noticed about this film when you, I don't know if you can remember when you first watched it, but maybe on your rewatch or at any point, did anything leap out at you very early in this film?
I mean, the first thing that leaps out at me is how fucking great it looks.
Yeah.
Like, on my original watch through, rewatch for the podcast, my first note that I wrote down was any shot that doesn't have a person in it looks amazing.
Yeah, it's unreasonably well shot.
But then, like, on my second pass through this afternoon, I think the people stuff also looks great. So Jim Murrow basically was going to film school around this time. Roy Frumkes, who wrote this, was one of his lecturers.
Okay.
He's also a zombie that gets a pie in the face in Dawn of the Dead.
Excellent.
Jim Murrow had a Steadicam rack, and so everyone wanted to work with him.
Okay.
That's how this film basically comes about, is that he had a Steadicam rack, and everyone was like, let's be friends in film school. Did
they know, were they affiliated with a practical effects whiz of some kind? Because this movie leans quite heavily on, the marketing for this movie is all practical effects.
Well, so the main practical effects bod on this film is Freddy, is the guy that plays Freddy, who is just another guy in their film class.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there was never really... It's weird because it feels like something that just sort of happened, a film that just sort of fell out of a camera. Mm-hmm. But like they slaved over this for months. There was like a couple of months of pre-production where they did intense blocking, set building on location. They built some other sets like in their offices and stuff. Yeah, they basically storyboarded everything out. And then they had a 3-month shooting period as well, where they did quite a lot of improvisation on set. Okay. So like this film feels like an accident, like it shouldn't exist. Like I guess because of like the subject matter, it sort of feels like a kind of frivolous, but they fucking worked really hard to make this the best thing that they could make at that point in their lives and careers on a budget of, I think, $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it looks amazing. The first thing that jumps out to me is just those skylines. Like in one of the making of documentaries that I saw a few years ago, there's like they show the raw footage and then how it was graded to like how it looks on the DVD or whatever it was that I had. I think it was an Arrow DVD.
Right.
Load of work after the fact to make it look amazing as well. Like it just looks so good.
Yeah. My first thing that I noticed, similar to you, is a bum farts really early on in the movie, and you don't often see that in movies.
Yeah, well, actually, the bum doesn't fart. It's a guy. Freddy gets farted on by a guy that works in a bodega.
That's it. Yeah. Just a really early fart, just to set the tone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like the tone is set right from that fart, and
Yep.
I mean the tone is all over the fucking place.
It does not have the slightest idea how it wants the viewer to feel, I don't think. And after about 20 minutes of just being battered around like that, I started to get the impression they didn't care.
Yeah.
I started to get the impression that it was like, here's all the shit that we want to do. We're not going to get bogged down with any moral conscience nonsense. We're not going to, kowtow to any kind of political correctness. We're not going to do anything that you expect us to. We're just going to show you the movie that we have in our heads, and we don't give a fuck what you think of it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's... They wanted it to feel anarchic. And like it feels like a trauma movie, but it feels like, I don't know, there's something about trauma movies that don't feel like real movies. Maybe they did it in the 80s, but less so as we sort of move through the 90s into the 2000s. And this does feel like a real movie. It's worth saying that obviously this is categorized as a melt movie, and that there are two melts fairly early on. And then there's a big gap, 3 melts if you count the business guy, and then there's a big gap, and then more melting at the end.
Yeah, I would go as far as to say not enough melts. Doesn't Roy Frumkes play that melted businessman as well? He plays the guy who gets So you're right. Early on, this movie sets its stall out that fucking bums are gonna melt. And then we don't get a lot of bum melting for a while, which is an interesting choice, especially when you talk about how deliberately this was storyboarded and how it was, pretty rigorously blocked, etc., etc. Maybe it's a stylistic choice to make you want more. Aesthetically, I love a lot of the grimy street scenes and the graffiti and the junkyard. Everything looks great really early on. You know that you're seeing like some pretty authentic urban decay backdrops. I can't stand how Fred looks in this movie. He just looks wrong to me. What do you think of his costume and him as a character?
Like he looks like an oldie-timey eating beans on the back of a train hobo. Like it's
yeah, but he doesn't act like that at all. He looks like a fucking Brooklyn hipster.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't come off well. He looks wrong. The hat just annoyed me. I couldn't get down with this character from the beginning. I was kind of hoping he'd melt. Spoiler, he doesn't melt.
He doesn't melt.
And he sucks. Like he's, in my opinion, the worst bum.
I mean, I think Bronson is the worst bum, but...
Bronson has a fucking excuse. Bronson at least has like a backstory. So Bronson is the king of the bums, and he is a hyper-violent Vietnam veteran guy who roams around with a sharpened thigh bone in a fucking holster, killing people for fun. Because he's, we're sort of led to believe by the movie, he's suffering like horrendous Vietnam flashbacks and obviously PTSD out of his mind. So he has like a motivation and a reason to be that way. I know that we get this bit of family background with Fred and his brother, but Fred's just a dick to everyone.
I think...
By the way, I'm not saying like it's a bad performance or anything like that. I'm saying his character is such a fuck that it's really hard to follow him as a protagonist.
Yeah, well, I think that's the point. I think like, this movie... Do you know, like, when your... Oh, okay, maybe not your... My parents would say something horrible and racist when I was a kid, and I'd be like, that's racist. They'd be like...
Yeah.
I'm not a racist. I'm an equal opportunity offender. Like...
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think this film hates everybody.
Yeah, it's really nasty in that regard. It's not... I don't get the feeling it's out to offend everybody. I get the feeling it just doesn't give a fuck that it is being really offensive. And it's one of those, like, if you're offended, it's your problem movies, which I'm completely fine with.
Yeah.
I think movies like this have a place, and its place is on this podcast.
Yeah.
I think Fred, he's not put there to be a likable protagonist with an arc of any kind.
No.
He is put there to emotionally manipulate you into you want to root for someone, and you are always rooting for the wrong person the whole way through, and they always turn around and do something fucking unforgivable 3 seconds after you started liking them.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty rewarding experience for a viewer. It fucks with you from the get-go.
The only sympathetic character in the entire movie is Fred's brother, Kevin. Is his name Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, if you sympathize with that kind of character, sure, but I think he fucking sucks as well. He commits the only offense that a movie like this can commit, and he's boring. I think Bert is a really likable character.
Which one's Bert?
Bert's like Fred's best mate. He has the great scene where he robs the convenience store.
Yeah, that's Bert.
Bert doesn't really put a foot wrong, does he? I mean, he makes a few remarks here and there, but he's cool. He's fun to hang with. He's good to be around.
Yeah.
Bert's a party guy.
He's got a gas mask that he just wears all the time.
Yeah, just loves razzing around in a gas mask. He's a great shoplifter. He puts about 300 fucking full-size chickens in his pants and tries to just bowl out the shop. He's got some great lines.
He does bowl out the shop. He literally bowls through the glass plate window.
Walks through the fucking door with a bag over his head. Great scene. Way too long. No reason for it to be there, but great. Enjoyed every second.
Yeah. That's the Linklater thing, though, right? It's like, it's a day in the life of a bunch of melting hobos.
Yes, give me more. Definitely. We get this early fart. We get a sort of cat and mouse scenario with Fred being chased for some money and some booze, and it's like bums robbing bums, and he jumps in the back of a truck, and it's all very grimy, and it's like, you know, the costume design and the makeup and everything is just pure filth, right?
Yeah.
They've just got black shit smeared all over their faces. It looks a bit too like fresh out the coal mine for me. It's a bit over the top, but when you see how they're living and the movie tries to kind of walk you through their lives, you understand that nobody here is trying to find a fucking shower or like a shelter.
Yeah, there's that one scene where the police threaten and ultimately shower that one guy.
Yeah.
And I read that because it gets so cold, the dirt keeps you warm.
Yeah.
So
and just like, yeah, layers of filth in your clothes caking to your skin and everything else. Yeah. Bleak as fuck.
Yeah, I would love to. I would hate to be homeless in New York, unhoused, fully on the streets in New York. Like that just is the worst. I'd rather melt.
I'd rather melt. I'd rather melt into a toilet. Yeah, it's a fucking rough old ride, and that's why you feel so uncomfortable enjoying just the fucking peril of these people. Like, half these guys I want to die really quickly and really soon, and it doesn't make you feel great. It's not setting out to make you. It's not a Hallmark movie.
No, and it's like, I think there is a vast difference between wanting these bums to die and accepting the challenging lives of real unhoused people. Like, they're not the same thing. Despite the fact that some of them are very good at like portraying homeless people. The woman, like what's Bronson's woman?
Wynette.
Yeah, I believe she's called Wynette, as in like
Wynette.
Wino, but she's a woman.
Got you. Very clever.
Yeah, her, and then the guy that melts second, who's got like the wide set teeth.
He's superb.
Who's got basically a Pacino performance. It's amazing. I love that guy.
He slays it, yeah.
But like, you really could believe that they had cast real homeless people from around this car impound lot or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, it feels semi-exploitative. They're so good at it.
Yeah, but they're just real actors.
Yeah.
The woman that plays the Wynette, for example, is like a avant-garde theatre person.
I mean, you can tell. It's, her performance is almost fucking Lynchian in its, mania. Some great performances, some almost, human performances here and there.
Well, so I think all the performances are good. They're just in different movies.
Yeah, they're all acting on a fucking vacuum. Like,
yeah.
It's a very, very bizarre way to watch characters interact. It feels like they're all shot in isolation somehow. This is probably a lack of experience direction, I imagine. I mean, who the fuck am I to criticize? But it feels like nobody is given like a unified plane to access. Everyone is like, right, you're nasty and you're mean and you're fucked up. they forget to tell them to be funny as well. And then the next guy, they tell them to be funny but nasty, mean, and fucked up. And it's like everyone brings something slightly different that's really jarring and doesn't quite fit together as a, like a puzzle. It fits together like a fucking Picasso. It's pure chaos.
Yeah, it just adds to that weird anarchic feeling of the film. Is just like the different performances that are happening. It's almost like that Italian thing of like, here are 10 actors that are acting in their own language at their own level.
Yep.
And it's just like, we'll just shove it together. We'll fix it in the edit.
Yeah, or we won't, and we'll just have something that feels really jarring and nasty and be fine with it. And that's the thing. Like, the problem I have as a viewer watching this for fun is that it's ultimately rewarding, again, if you can let yourself enjoy that chaos. If you can't, and you're looking for a rewarding character arc of some kind, or a fulfilling plot, or something to happen in this movie that isn't awful, then you're really only going to enjoy the last scene. Everything else is low simmering menace and bad things happening to people, which I lent into fully and fucking loved every second of. Do you want to talk about the first melting?
So the first melting is iconic and amazing. What's his name? Bobby or something steals the Tenafly Viper out of Freddy's pocket by breathing on him. His breath is so bad. Like, Freddy can fucking talk, but his breath is so bad that it makes Freddy look away for long enough for him to steal his hooch.
And this is Paulie, right?
Paulie, that's it, yeah.
Yeah.
He's talking about how he hasn't been able to shit for a bunch of days.
Yeah.
And Freddy advises him to mix raisins in with his hooch.
Mix raisins in with your wine. Yeah, great.
I mean, I bet that's great.
It's genius tip.
It's basically
bound to loosen you up, right?
Basically mulled wine.
Yeah, close.
And so then Paulie goes off to this set that they built on location, which is a smashed up building. He walks through a door that says ladies on it, and then it sort of pulls back and you realise that there are no walls.
It's one of the funniest shots in the movie. It's great. I loved it. Real slapstick. Bricks fall off when he shuts the door. It's great.
Yeah. And so he takes a seat on the toilet, and he takes a couple of swigs of Tenafly Viper, and he melts all blue. Like, it starts immediately. I would love to understand the internal logic of Tenafly Viper and why it makes people melt.
I thought about that because I thought some people start melting like basically from the mouth as soon as it touches them. Some people, they clutch their esophagus. Some people, it goes to their belly. I think it's all to do with your like boss level of bumness, like how hardcore you are. I think that's where you melt from. The more hardcore you are, the more of it you manage to get down. And the more of a lightweight you are, the more you start to feel it higher up in your body.
Yeah, well, I don't know, because the only person that we see survive for a bit is the guy that runs the liquor store.
Yeah, true.
Because
well, Bronson gets it splashed on his skin, doesn't he? So he doesn't really count.
Yeah, but yeah. So I think his name's Ed. He drinks it in the liquor store, and he sort of melts quite a lot. But then you see a little person in his clothes covered in goo crawling away at the end.
Yeah, which is incredibly cool.
Yeah.
This melting, though, the thing that got me, I mean, it's fucking great from start to finish. Like you said, it is totally iconic. But the choice of blue is awesome.
Yeah.
You're not expecting that blue goo. You're not expecting his, like, limbs to separate with, like, this ragged blue jelly. Blue makes it so otherworldly and strange. It's a really fun choice.
I don't know what the reasoning behind that was, besides this is a cool thing that people don't tend to do.
Yeah.
They obviously weren't remotely bothered about appeasing any sort of censor organization.
Sure.
Because of all the rape.
Yeah.
I think they just thought, this is cool. So also they have like a color scheme for each individual melting.
Yeah. So
Paulie melts blue. The next guy melts yellow.
Mm-hmm.
The guy explodes. He just sort of explodes.
Yeah, there's like a mixture of colours in there, which is fun.
Yeah, there's someone else that melts purple. But yeah, I would love to know the internal logic. So it's meant to be 60-year-old fortified wine.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also an allusion to them pulling it off sale for some reason. Obviously, that's all you need in order to be like, yeah, it makes you melt.
Yes.
Why are you asking me a question? That they're melting. What do you care how?
You just enjoy. I think a lot of people default to the fact that it's like irradiated somehow. There's some kind of like radiation thing happening. But like you said, I don't give a fuck. They drink it, they melt, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
At that first melting scene, everything about it is brilliant. I love that he becomes this like rubber goo monster in the toilet. It's so 80s, it's almost unbearable. It's like you desperately want a toy of that moment.
Yeah.
It's so 80s. Yeah, the colors are great. The performance is great as well. You got to later on in the movie we see some slightly less convincing melt acting. His melt acting is superb. It can't be easy to do that.
Yeah. Who are you not into?
Well, the bum that explodes.
Oh yeah.
The only good bit about that is him exploding. All of his like weird
convulsing
burping stuff is yeah. But it's just badly dubbed more than anything. It doesn't feels like it could have been better. Or maybe I'm being hypercritical, but I want these melting scenes to be absolutely top tier because the effects are so good. And if the actor just doesn't quite nail it, I'm always just a bit aware that it's an effect rather than part of the movie, or like a thing that's happening.
I think in terms of the effects, they very much look like effects. Almost all of them, apart from maybe that first one, until the head sort of is trying to come back out of the toilet at the end.
Yeah.
Everything, you can sort of see how they do it. They always seem to be against a wall or leaning on a car or whatever. But I think that's part of the fun. Knowing how they do it is all part of the fun.
Yeah, I love that. There's the scene where the guy melts against the wall, like you said. You're immediately aware, he's against the wall because it's something to do with the effect. And then you see the spray coming out and you're like, they're spraying it through the wall. That's fucking cool as shit.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away from what you're seeing as part of the movie. It just makes you think in more layers about how fucking rad that effect is. Like, that's genius to do that. Yeah. Well played. I love that shit.
It's like when Wynette is leaning against the car and like all of a sudden she's just like spraying neon goo out of her nipples. Like,
yeah, it's superb. It's really inventive. It's reveling in the absurdity and the fun of melting bums. And they do it in really clever ways. They're not phoning it in. They're focusing a lot of time and energy on making these melts fun, exciting, and visually fucking... iconic is the only word, really. There'll be no other melting for a long time that sticks in my mind the way these guys melt.
Yeah,
gals.
There are a couple of other melt movies that almost... capture the joy of the melts in this movie, which is like Body Melt is one, which has Harold.
Not just a clever name.
Yeah, has Harold Bishop from Neighbours in it.
Oh God.
There's one called Slime City.
Okay.
Which I think some of the crew involved in this one are involved in that one.
Right.
And that's really about it for a long time.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's that scene at the end of RoboCop.
This is it though, like slime goo and ooze movies where they intersect with melt movies. There's a lot of debate about what makes it a melt movie, I guess. And that guy in RoboCop is melting, right? That's a melt, and he's doing a great job. It's one of the best melty boys ever.
Right, like this movie is ultimately 6 of those interspersed with hobos drinking and occasionally gang raping somebody.
Yeah, and if that's your pitch to a studio, good luck, brother. But the trick here is there is no, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, there seems to be no pacing with these melts. They just happen when they happen. Yeah. I don't think there's an enormous amount of thought in this. It's not like, we'll leave them begging for the next melt. It's like, let's have 20 minutes of total bullshit and then a melt.
Yeah, well, I was thinking a lot about this, and I was like, but I don't get bored.
No, well, this is the thing. I've got a little bit to talk about later on with the way this movie escalates from one thing to the next. And I think they're paying a lot more attention to how hard they can up the depravity before they get to the next melt. So maybe that's conscious, I don't know. But it fucking escalates hard later in this film.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it escalates sort of beautifully. And I really enjoy the sort of the cop subplot. Mostly because it ends in him dying. But I really rate this cop, this actor, whose name I can't remember right now. It's something Chapel, Bob Chapel.
Oh, Barbie. We're talking about the character whose name is... He has a really funny name, doesn't he? It's like Bill the Cop. Yeah, Bill Chappell, Bill the Cop.
I really rate him as an actor. Like, there's no reason why he couldn't have been, like, Fifth Banana in a Brian Dennehy, like, one of our own type cop movies, or, like,
Sure.
headlining, like, a Ted Pryor, like, bullshit Z-list cop movie. Like, it's insane to me that he doesn't act again.
Yeah, no career, and is an ex-cop.
Yeah.
So maybe just was an ex-cop who did an act for fun and then fucked it off.
I don't understand why you would do that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, there is potential there, I think, in him as a character actor. He doesn't really have the look, as far as I'm concerned. Like, guys who fill that role of, like, the dirty cop or the tough cop or the crooked cop, like, they have a really strong presence and look, and I don't know, he just doesn't quite get there for me, but that's totally personal preference, and cop taste is,
he looks kind of like in Evil Dead when that dude's got the hair in his mouth.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he looks like.
He does. I think he looks like a completely fucked up, fresh out of rehab Kevin Costner.
He's just got a really gnarly face, hasn't he? Like,
not gnarly enough for me. A bit too bland for my facial taste, but his performance in this, he delivers some great lines with serious gusto. He's fucking huge. He's enormous in stature.
Yeah.
And physically good in the fight scenes. Obviously like a real scrapper, I would say.
Yeah.
And he definitely brings something this movie desperately needs, which is some kind of coherent human narrative. So he has a task that he performs. He has a motivation that he follows. And when he's in a scene, he has a purpose. And I think that's really important for the film.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's just great. When he dies, it's a little bit like, oh shit, what's going to happen now?
Yeah, I was not expecting him to just be dead on the floor.
But, alas, killed by Bronson.
Bronson does some kills. He kills very early in the movie, puts a guy through the windscreen of his own car.
Yeah, I find that scene really funny.
Yeah, it is funny.
Because he's
talking really well done.
Like, the nerdy guy, weekend warrior guy, is in the car talking to this homeless Vietnam vet, and he's like, I got to shoot one of the guns that you had in Vietnam. That was fun.
He is not on that guy's level.
No, he is not.
And his girlfriend is freaking the fuck out, saying things like, he's touching the car. Like, so deserving of being put through that windscreen.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, pretty rewarding comeuppance there. But that's the instigating moment, I guess, that gets Bronson back on the radar of the cops and gets them sniffing around the junkyard and gets the cops fucking with his shit, basically, and starts putting him in a spot where he's backed into a corner, which ultimately resolves in his rampage. Bronson has at least like some motivation and something that resembles a bit of a backstory. So he and Bill the cop are pretty good together. They're at odds. You feel a real genuine tension, and one pursuing the other. It feels legit.
Yeah, they do also almost have like two sides of the same coin sort of feel as well.
They both suck. They're both mean. They both beat people up all the time and treat people like garbage. You want to see them duke it out, right?
Yeah, you do. And like, one of the things that I really like in this is that the Foley is really clever. So in those fight scenes, at least, like, those punches feel like they land.
Yeah, I mean, I put that down to like pretty decent combat choreography, but you're right, that doesn't work without good Foley. Yeah. And a good punch sound is, you can cruise an entire movie on decent combat sounds, right? If you get it wrong, it completely falls apart. If you get it right, you totally believe it's a real fight.
Yeah. There's the fight where he's fighting like one of Nick Duran's Goombas.
Yeah.
Who he kills. You allowed to do that as a cop? I don't think you are.
He doesn't do anything that he's supposed to as a cop. He is police brutality incarnate.
Is it procedure to, after you've killed a gangster, to put your fingers down your throat and vomit on their dead face?
That was inspired. It just shows you how fucking low this guy is. And the sick itself, it looks like he has some internal bleeding. It looks like a fistful of raw mince with like fucking clots of blood and shit in it. It's the worst vomit I've ever seen in a film.
Yeah.
And by worst, I'd probably mean best. Like, that is such a disgusting scene. Kicks fuck out the guy who looks like he's in the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones in a toilet, face down in the urinal where he's just been pissing, and then just fucking sicks on his head.
Yeah, I mean, that's an escalation, isn't it?
That was part of my escalation notes, yeah. And I have a lot of respect for that as a plot move because it's so depraved, you'd have to be a special kind of guy to think of that.
Yeah.
What's he going to do to the body? Kick in the ribs. We've seen that. Piss on him. Ooh, we've seen that. Sick on his head. Haven't seen that much.
Yeah, I mean, we do. Obviously, Bronson pisses on the cop when he dies. And that, does that feel like a step backwards to you then?
No, I like it because he's whistling like the national anthem or something when he does it, which is just inspired. Like, it's so cool. It's definitely a callback. I think it works because he's strutting while he does it, like a walking piss while he whistles. It's just fucking great.
I thought, is it not the song that they play at like military funerals? Like the... that one.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Amazing. The Last Post or something?
Yeah.
Fucking even better. Yeah, love that shit. Love the different ways that these characters articulate their disrespect for whoever the opposing party is. It feels quintessentially filthy New York, just blanket disrespect of all humanity. But then to puke on someone's head after you've killed them is fucking great. It's so good. But the thing with stuff like that is normally I think it reads great on the page, but they pull the punch, or it doesn't look as good as it could or whatever. But this is perfect. He fucking sells it. It's a one finger down the throat, sloppy, bilious, pink sick on a guy's head. Nailed it. No notes.
Yeah. Can we address the really, really horrible elephant at the center of this movie?
Yep, there's a horrendous gang rape scene. Well, actually, yes, the whole thing is horrendous, but we don't actually see the gang rape.
Yeah.
So let's break it down. Fred finds a drunk woman in the street outside a relatively decent looking like hotel bar.
Yeah. She thinks he's her boyfriend.
Yeah, she's in the movie, we're led to believe she's so hammered that she thinks Fred is her boyfriend. Her boyfriend is a well-dressed, probably smells kind of good mafia boss. And Fred looks like fucking Bob Dylan in the dark days.
Yeah.
And we know he stinks of shit and he's foul.
Yeah, like Fred looks like a scarecrow that came to life when a magic bird shat on him.
He really fucking does. And yeah, so she's so hammered that she thinks Fred is this mafia guy. And for a split second, we think, oh, Fred's gonna help her home or send her back into the bar. Nope, he's gonna fucking lead her back to the junkyard and fuck her in front of all his bum friends. And that's what he does. And that's a huge part of why Fred sucks. But the whole scene, so one thing to note, when they're heading back to the junkyard looks amazing.
Yeah.
It's really well framed. The shots are all beautiful. There's loads of smoke. There's light blasting out from inside their little tire house. It's fucking cool. But while Fred is fucking this drunk lady, all of the bums are like creeping out of their hovels towards the tire pile to watch through the holes, and they're licking their lips and they're behaving like animals, and it's all beginning to feel like, on first viewing, Fred's not going to be alone in there for very long. And what happens is Fred actually finishes and leaves, and then in come the bums.
Yeah, and they drag her away. Oh, it's so gross. The way that they like gather through the smoke and the blue light in between like the car carcasses and the tires and stuff. It feels so icky, and it feels like it's from a different movie.
Yeah, it doesn't, for me, it doesn't work. It doesn't fit with where we've been with these characters so far.
There's nothing
feel
fun
like
about
something
it.
they would do. No, it's not fun. Because I think you too have a pretty twisted sense of fun. I think it gets fun later. But in that moment, it just feels wrong. It feels dropped into the middle of the movie. It might be the only part of the movie where I think that's there just to offend everyone, maybe.
Yeah.
It's not poorly executed. I'm not going to take away from the artistry of it, but it just kind of leaves you in a sort of rotten place where you don't feel fantastic about watching the rest of the movie.
Yeah, like those shots of the gang the gang of bums like making their way to the tire pile.
Yeah.
Are technically amazing.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
they feel horrible and they don't feel like they're part of this movie.
Yeah. It doesn't feel right.
Which is maybe what they were going for, but like they don't.
Yeah.
There's like we said, there's no fun there, and this movie tries really hard to be fun.
Yeah.
Even when it's being horrible, there's a attempted rape scene in the next scene, right?
The very next scene, and it has this playful tuba music over it, and it's full of like one-liners and bits and gags, and that feels like an overplayed attempt at recovery from the previous scene. It's like, see, look, we are having fun, don't worry. You know, like when you drop a terrible joke that's way too offensive for the company that you're in, and then the next thing you say is like disgracefully vanilla to try and claw it back. It feels like that.
I wonder if they're like, I don't know if I'm applying a level of thought that they didn't give it, but I wonder if like the scene in the tire house happens and nobody finds it fun, obviously, because it's not fun at all. And then the next scene is like, but see how rape can be funny if you play it right or whatever.
Yeah, it could be.
I wonder if that's what they're going for. Obviously, your mileage may vary, but
it's definitely a big from me in terms of pulling off that particular message.
Yeah.
But like, sure, yeah, could be. I mean, for me, this is where the most noteworthy escalation begins. Obviously, the escalation starts the second Fred finds this woman in the alley, because that's the whole lead into the horrible gang rape scene. But then, yeah, you're transferred to the junkyard owner and his employee, just straight up like, yeah, sexual assault, play for laughs, basically, with some spicy dialogue. And you think, okay, surely this like is plateauing.
He fakes a heart attack halfway through.
He fakes a heart attack. She thinks she's trapped under him. He's a very big man. She's freaking out. He comes to and, you know, plays it all off for a joke, etc., etc. Just when you think that is like, okay, this has escalated far enough, there's got to be like a dip in the action. He goes outside and he has an enormous cum stain on his pants that his dog runs up and licks.
Yeah.
And that's when you think, okay, it's not over. Carrying on.
I feel like that is one of the funniest moments in the film. But
because he calls the dog gay for licking his cum-stained crotch. It just keeps coming. As if you think, oh, God, that cum stain's gross. Oh, my God, the dog's licking. Oh, he's fucking called the dog gay for licking his... It's horrific, dude. It just goes on and on.
Oh.
And then, fuck, this guy, straight from this scene, walks out and sees the corpse of the woman who was gang raped the night before. And, you know, what do we get? Do we get like a discovery of Laura Palmer style emotional outpouring and the cops get called and they set up a cordon? No?
No, he basically like raises his eyebrows and rubs his hands. It's like...
And then he fucks the corpse.
Yeah, we don't see him fuck the corpse.
But you know how we know he fucks the corpse?
Because he's worried that he has syphilis later on.
Because one of the fucking bums who gang raped her had syphilis. And you know how we know that? Because Bill the cop uses the phrase, there were layers of semen inside her.
Yeah, and he's like, but you can't tell which one's which, right? Like, we'll know because the third one from the end had syphilis.
Yeah. So this constant escalation.
Oh.
Fucking hell. And again, like, you know, we think to ourselves, sure, glad we're done with that part of the movie. Nope. Bronson, we cut to Bronson, right?
Yeah.
And what is he doing at this point? I think he like crouches to do something and a bum takes a piss through a fence into his face.
Is that he's chasing Freddy for some reason?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Fred scurries off like through a hole or something, right?
Yeah. Oh,
And
he has Freddy by the lapels. And then,
he's slamming him around.
And then the piss comes through the vents or whatever. And Freddy...
A pretty good stream of piss.
Freddy hightails it away.
You want to tell us what happens after this fucking piss scene?
I think the worst scene in the movie. They cut off this dick. It's huge, for one.
It's a great dick.
And it's, like, hard. Who's pissing with a hard, gigantic penis?
Whose dick, like, just fucking stays as big as it was when it was on your body when you chop it off? Like, if anything, gets bigger. Like, we're led to believe dicks shrink to nothing when they're severed from the body, right?
I've not thought too much about it.
Have you not? I've spent a lot of time worrying about having my dick cut off in a junkyard. They cut this fucking monster hog off this bum and just begin playing piggy in the middle with it. He doesn't really react to having his dick cut off, which is hysterical to me. He doesn't seem like he's in pain. He's just like running around like, give me my dick back. I gotta get it on ice. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that this scene is not as fun for me as I want it to be.
Really? Why not? Where doesn't it hit?
I don't know. It just goes on like way too long.
So long.
I mean, the funniest thing about it is that he can't get in a taxi, so he hitches a ride on the back of a school bus with his dick in his hand.
That is such a payoff for that long game of penis-based keep away.
Yeah.
My note for this scene just says, the dick actually looks great, underlined. It's such a fucking cracking little dick.
So, like, in the scenes where it's flying through the sky,
yeah,
that's like a huge dick. That's like a football-sized dick that they're just, like, passing to each other. Yeah.
And that's great. That just adds to the theatre of the moment. This dick is cool. The whole time it's on screen, I'm having fun. It's not a fun scene, I don't think. It's just because if you put a severed dick in a movie, I'm going to laugh. But, like, it's ladled with horrible menace and scummy stuff. Like, it doesn't feel like a fucking, like, if you cut someone's dick off in an American Pie movie or something, it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
It's not the scene where Jim glues his hand to his dick. It's something very different. So for fans of dick jokes, maybe put it on the B-reel. It's a must-see, but no urgency.
It's so funny as a vibe, because it's like, you're meant to be like laughing along like, ha ha ha, he can't get his dick. But like, he's just got his dick chopped off, like really viciously.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
With a fucking human thigh bone, right? Is that what Bronson... Jesus Christ. I mean, I don't know, man. From here, I think the movie takes a slight pivot and a bit of a break. We get a bit of... we get a little bit of Fred in his shack with his brother and an attempt at some exposition and backstory that I sort of zoned out for, to be honest. And then at this point, we've waited long enough and we get a melt.
Yeah. We get...
what do you think of this?
Is it Wizzy? Is it Wizzy next?
Oh, wait, no, I've skipped one. We're at the explosion by this point. Sorry.
Oh, no, the explosion happens before Wizzy, doesn't it? Because...
okay, cool.
Because Fred sees the explosion happen and then realises that Tenafly Viper becomes... makes you explode, so he weaponizes it against Wizzy.
Of course. And the explosion.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think it's great. It's a fat guy. You make a fat guy explode. It's fine 101, right?
I think the explosion is fucking excellent.
Yeah.
I think the build-up is pretty good. Some notes. But the actual, the slow-mo, the framing, the gore... fucking perfect. Fucking brilliant.
Yeah, like, I really enjoy that Freddy has to hide behind the car and then it just sort of skirts over him because he's in that one bit of shade. That's really good. I think the framing of this movie in general is really good. I feel like, now, I don't know if I'm being wanky film man 69, but I feel like that they always shoot the characters that are like on the edge of the frame to make you sort of feel like they're on the fringes of society, I guess. I don't know if that's a reach.
No, it makes sense to me. There's a lot of that. I think I attributed it to giving as much room to the like rotten scenery as possible. But you're right. That feels like it fits. There's a lot of diagonal character angles that was making me think, like, showing us these people are wonky, you know, they're off center, there's something not straight down the line about them. I don't think these are accidental camera placements. It all looks fucking great. It's, you know, we do get an Evil Dead shot, you know, we get like a low, fast, wobbly tracking shot through the rubble. These are tips of the hat to other movies. They're placed there for a reason, and I wouldn't say it's a reach to say that they're at least trying to say something about, you know, these characters in terms of their place in society.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you've got to think about these things as a filmmaker, even if you don't think about anything else.
Yeah, I think they probably had like so much going on while they were making this movie in terms of like time constraints, location problems, difficulties with actors based on things I've read. It would amaze me if every single shot and scene is considered to bring you to a place where you're supposed to have some revelation about, you know, the nature of homelessness in New York, etc., because it's not that movie.
No.
But also, just putting them there looks cool as fuck. It might just be a really simple, like, he looks best there in that scene.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But when they blow up that hobo,
yeah,
and there's that great shot of like the streaking gore across the sky, there's just some really nice, really well framed, in terms of like the color and texturally, everything looks fucking great. You could just blow him up and job done. Haha, he blew up. But no, they do a really great slow-mo shot. They show Fred diving. Again, you get like reaction shots. It's done well. It's really really well done.
Yeah, and then obviously we move into Wizzy drinking some Tenafly Viper, being tricked into it by Freddy, which I think is a great scene. I like that character and that actor a lot.
Yeah, he's strong in this.
He's just a guy that worked at the lot.
Really?
Yeah. So the lot where they filmed this belongs to Jim Muro's dad.
Okay.
So that's why they were able to do as much as they were with it.
There's some great stuff in that lot. The pile of car stereos behind the desk in some of those opening scenes, it just looks amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the cars that they found, they came from that lot. Like, they built the tire tower on there and everything.
Nice.
Yeah. This guy that plays Wizzy, whose name I don't know, I think he's great. I think he's so good.
Yeah, he for me, there's just so many other bums that could have been that main character. It just annoys me a little bit that Fred gets so much of our eyeball time. But it's such a good supporting cast that, you know, they do their job so well, you sort of struggle to think, well, how would you fill their shoes if you bumped one of these guys up? Or whatever.
Well, so
but again,
the guy that plays Fred, what's his name? Mike Lackey. He wasn't supposed to play Fred. I think in the short that they made before the feature, obviously, the guy that was meant to play Fred didn't show up because he was a junkie.
Okay. So
they were like, okay, who does this costume fit? There you go, Mike. You can be Fred now.
Great, lucky Mike. Didn't the same thing happen with the guy that played Bronson? I read something that said Bronson hadn't even read the script. He didn't know what his place was in the movie. He was just like day to day doing reads. I think
he just got cast super late.
So, I mean, that's pure chaos, right? You don't, you know, that's not how great movies are made.
No.
But it brings that element of like, fuck, who knows what's going to happen next, which is valuable. I think that has value in a movie like this.
Yeah, I think that's how you get the feeling like this movie just sort of fell out of someone's brain. Because
what do you think of? Oh no, sorry, go on.
No, you go on.
I was going to say, what do you think about Bronson's flashbacks?
I really like the vampire stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one's really good. I don't like it when the character who is there in present day shows up. That's weird to me.
Yeah, I couldn't follow that. It's Wendy, played by Jane Arakawa, right?
Yeah.
He in his flashback, he rescues her from like a Viet Cong prison camp or something.
Yeah. I think it's just supposed to show that like he likes her.
Right. Okay.
But like,
fair enough.
I'm not sure it lands.
It places in my mind like, is that a genuine flashback? Did that really happen, or is she creeping into his subconscious in that way? Like, I didn't know what was happening, and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, they look great.
They do look great. Shot in New Jersey, kind of cool. Like, they pull off a lot with not much, right?
Yeah, and you can do quite a lot with not much. You don't need to have Vic Morrow and 3 actors die in a helicopter accident. Like, you can...
Yeah, you don't even need a fucking helicopter.
Yeah, you can just have the light go in a certain way. Like...
Yeah. Maybe that's, again, testament to the Foley. The sound in those flashbacks sells it, I think. And she's fucking great as well. Before we go on, just a massive hats off to Jane Arakawa for her portrayal of Wendy. I love her. I think she's amazing. She's great.
Yeah, she's the only person. If you don't like what Kevin or whatever his name is doing, like she's the only sympathetic presence that actually has any real value.
And she's minimized throughout the movie, which is a statement to me. I think they're saying, here's a really nice, wholesome person who wants to help out these homeless people, wants to treat them like human beings, works this shit job just to get through her fucking life. And we're going to give you like fucking 14 seconds of her, and then we're going to blow up the next fucking bum we can get our hands on.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's deliberate to like show her briefly and then fuck her off completely. It's mean.
Ultimately, she's not really a person. She's like a medal, right? That they're dangling.
Yeah, I suppose.
I don't know what Bronson thinks he's going to do with her if he gets her, because like she doesn't like him. He's going to rape her and kill her, and then that's it. Like, that's not what you do to people that you like, Bronson.
Really?
I
thought you were talking to me.
Silly bugger.
Yeah, I think Bronson's, again, motivation there is kind of hazy, kind of sketchy. It seems like he's driven more insane by the fact that she's attracted to Fred's brother.
Who's meant to be 14, by the way.
14?
Meant to be 14, yeah.
Fucking 40 more like me. I think he's driven insane by that, and maybe he sees it as like a... Because he sees himself as the leader of a people, and he seems to have a code, and maybe that's a violation of the code somehow. I don't know. It was murky at best, but it drives him to go on a rampage, right? And that's where we get the lead up to and the culminating fight scene / pursual and grand finale. What are your thoughts of the rest of the movie from here on out?
Well, we sort of glossed over Wizzy's death a little bit, which I think is great.
Yeah.
He's against the wall. The wall has this insane mural on it.
Yeah.
Which is really good, and they recreate like a small section of it in their studio for like the close-ups.
It's so clever.
It's just really good. And like he sort of melts into the wall and mushes away, and it's great puppet work. It's great color work again.
Yeah, there's nothing I don't love about that scene. I've got so much respect for that practical effect. They really pulled off a doozy there.
Yeah.
It's quite quick. It doesn't linger as much as, like a melt fiend would want it to. But it feels tasteful. It doesn't feel tasteful. It's tasteful length. It's like... And you're right, the color work's fucking phenomenal. It's some of the best melty times in the movie. I love every second of that.
Did you say it tastes full length?
Tastes full length, yeah. We're talking about this fucking gigantic hobo dick again.
Like, some of the melts even happen off camera. Like the one on the fire escape.
Yeah, the really good performance from that bum is sort of, I don't know, you feel a bit shortchanged by the off-screen melt, because I feel like the payoff was supposed to be that he melts onto this businessman, but then we don't really see him melt properly either, so it's a real tease.
Yeah. I quite like it, because you get that sort of neon yellow. Like, I don't know how that would reconcile itself in, like, an actual thing. Like, an actual scene. I guess maybe, like, literally dripping through the fire escape would be nice.
That's kind of what I wanted, and I wanted like the eyeballs not to drip through and stay up there, and like just a pile of fucking teeth. But I like that it looked like they used kind of like a yellow jelly to hit the pavement. I thought that was really cool, because you're just thinking, fuck, where's the fucking jelly coming from? It's great.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So when we get to the scene where Bronson is chasing Fred's brother around, has he already killed the cop at this point?
That's part of that whole last 15 minutes of the scene of the movie.
So, like, Bill the cop shows up. They have a huge brawl. He immediately stabs the cop in the back. Bronson immediately stabs the cop in the back.
Yeah.
It's all downhill for the cop from there, isn't it? Like, you're never going to really get the upper hand after you've been stabbed directly in the spine.
Yeah, he appears to be unarmed and significantly outnumbered.
Yeah.
In a junkyard full of mad gang raping hobos.
Yeah. So, you know,
he's in a pickle.
He is in a pickle.
He doesn't even have a fucking radio. This guy just walks around in jeans and a fucking shirt for the whole movie. Did you see their crime lab? Holy fuck. It's like a middle school biology classroom. It was fucking terrible.
There was some good eating in the morgue in this one.
My fave. A mortician eating in a morgue is one of my fave tropes, yeah. But Jesus Christ, it looked like kids were about to come in for detention any minute. It was a bad scene in there.
Yeah. I think that's the same office that they use for the store cupboard in the liquor shop. And,
yeah, that tracks.
And like basically everything else that they always use for an office. I think it's all the same room, and they just like redress them.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
But yeah, that morgue scene is weird because it's like, hey, I've dressed this corpse up. I've taxidermied this burnt corpse.
Yeah. It's so dumb.
Very
but I actually found that quite fun. You know, I love any morgue scene. You can't fuck up a morgue scene as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
They did well with what they had, I think, in that one.
Yeah, so back to the Bronson cop fight. Like, the cop gets in some good jabs, but he's never going to win, and he doesn't win.
He's ultimately overpowered by big bad Bronson.
Yeah, and then when he dies, like we say, you're just like, what the fuck? The deluge of the mafia is now going to descend upon the junkyard. It doesn't.
No, for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a low-budget film, this film has so many characters doing so many things that have... And a lot of them have nothing to do with melting.
No, they're introducing characters like an hour and 15 into this movie, and it's so unnecessary. Like, just blow up and melt the bums and let us have a good time. But yeah, they keep bringing in these weird little sub-narratives that don't really go anywhere as far as I'm concerned. There's just no real reason for it, but maybe they just had lots of people who wanted to be in the movie, so they just fucking gave them roles.
Yeah,
it's like the opposite problem to what you normally have on an indie.
Well, so the guy that plays Nicky Duran, he's like an actual lounge singer.
Really?
Yeah, he was like... So he was... I think he's Jim Muro's nephew or something.
Okay.
Wait, no, the other way around. Jim Muro's uncle.
Right.
And Jim Muro's dad called him and was like, you have to be in this movie. You owe me a favour. Like, you have to do it.
Jesus, you owe me a favour. Brilliant.
And so he was like performing two shows a day at Atlantic City or whatever, and had to like basically like cancel his contract in Vegas or Atlantic City or whatever it was to go and be in fucking Street Trash. And he sings the song at the end, the My Way knockoff.
Okay, pretty good.
Over the credits, yeah.
You got to give him credit there. I mean, yeah, if you have the time to go to the IMDb and just scroll through the cast, it's fucking way too long.
It's so long.
Huge. I mean, we do get some great credits in this movie. We get Exploding Derelict, which I think is a great credit. Viet Cong Vampire is a great credit.
These are all band names that I'm logging for later.
Yes.
Viet Cong Vampire. Come on now.
Viet Cong Vampire is a great album title. The two right next to each other that I think are absolutely superb is Whorin' Van and Receptive Whorin' Van.
Yeah.
So good. A lot of good credits, yeah.
So, in the scene or in the section where we're just sort of adding sub-characters for no good reason, we add one of my favourite sub-characters who has no business being in this film, but I love him anyway.
Right.
Which is James Lorenz as the doorman.
Sure.
I love that guy.
Yeah, again, like, why are you giving this guy like 50 lines of dialogue? So 10 minutes from the end and a post-credit sequence. What the fuck is going on? He's a doorman.
So in the script, he had one line.
Right, and they just get rolling.
Yeah, and like basically his like shtick with the guy that plays Nicky Duran was so good. They just like kept it in. They added more and more. They just kept shooting, and it worked out really well. He's have you seen Frankenhooker?
Oh, donkeys years ago, and I don't think I was paying a lot of attention. It was on at a party. It was one of those things.
So, well, he's your main guy in Frankenhooker.
I thought he looked slightly familiar. He's good looking. He's very he's very charismatic, very like easy to watch on screen.
Yeah, I feel like he talks like a cartoon rat.
He does. He's got that like tight-lipped kind of like stiff but confident thing going on.
Yeah.
He's cool, but fucking hell, if you're going to have him in the movie, bring him in earlier and give him some kind of interaction with the characters in this. Like he's bizarre. He's got like a little bottle episode towards the end of the movie and a post-credit sequence. What are you doing? Stop bringing these people in and just blow up more bums.
But like he lets Fred take home Nikki's girl.
Yeah, but you can't like characterize the importance of a brand new character in a movie by them just letting something that was going to happen anyway. Like it's fun that he does have some pretty zippy little bits of dialogue, and he does tee up a sequel at the end.
He also eats a banana and then immediately eats some chicken.
Yeah, pretty strange. I don't know, man. I like him, but Jesus, bring him in sooner.
Yeah, sure.
Give me more.
When Bronson kills the cop, he says, "Dead maggot shit."
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I don't know, and nothing Bronson says makes sense or is cool. There's way better lines in this movie. Dead maggot shit. I think he just said 3 gross words.
My favourite thing that he says that makes no sense is when they cut away to a plane and he says, "Air support."
That's great. See, I like that. That is at least like unhinged Nam vet type stuff. I mean, the dialogue in this movie, I'm going to say, does exactly what the rest of the movie does. It lulls you into thinking it's really clever, and then it fucks it up completely with some total garbage. But there are some really zippy one-liners. I'm not going to like sit here and quote them all, but I wrote down a ton of them because they're so good. It is worth like maybe sitting close to the speakers for this movie because a lot of it's mumbled and delivered quite poorly, but there is top quality dialogue in here, buried throughout the movie.
Yeah, I think my favourite little sort of throwaway bit of dialogue is in the scene when the guy gets the melt goo on his face and they run to the cop and they won't help him. The cop's busy because obviously someone's just died.
Yeah.
And that woman's like, "Why won't you help him? Is it because he's male?"
So absurd. Total fucking lunacy. I think
like if that was written
like that.
If that was written now, maybe that would make some sense in a.
It would land now. Yeah, exactly. It makes no fucking sense in the late 80s. What are you talking about? It's stuff like that that keeps my interest. Like I didn't get bored because of stuff like that. Like in that long shoplifting scene, if the dialogue wasn't as good as it is, I would have checked out a little bit for that, I think. But they just keep you in there with some sparkly bits of dialogue. It's kind of cool.
You were just waiting to see the manager's lily white Haitian ass or whatever.
Yeah, I was waiting for that payoff exactly. The exit from that scene is the payoff. Bag on your head, walk through the glass. It's so sick. So much good stuff in there. Yeah, I really enjoyed the way this movie didn't shy away from mini movies inside the movie. Like this whole new gangster guy and his shtick, the whole shoplifting scene. To a certain extent, I think the gang rape is an attempt at that. Doesn't land anywhere near as well as the funny stuff. But it's not afraid to just kind of plot these little mini games in the movie for you to kind of just enjoy for enjoyment's sake. And then just hard pivot to someone melting. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so too. Have you got anything else that you want to say before we take a break and come back and wrap this up?
I really want to talk about the final death, but we should do that after a little break, right?
Yeah. Let's keep them hanging on, Sam.
Hang with us, guys.
Come on, man. Does that thing even work? No. There's nothing out there. It's just dead air.
And we're back.
We're so back. Sam, before we talk about the final death in this movie, why don't you tell the good people how they can support the podcast?
There are so many ways that you can get behind this crazy train and... poor choice of words given the movie that
God.
There are a lot of ways that you can support this podcast.
Oh.
Number 1, follow us on Instagram at FT Horror Show. So much good content, so many silly goose fun times over there on the Instagram. We're a force for good in a terrible place. You can subscribe to the Patreon if you would like to. For a very small amount of money, you can experience an enormous quantity of additional content, ranging from articles written by me and Jamie, eventually some creative writing by me and Jamie. There's a lot of extra episodes, including us talking about creep show episodes one at a time until probably the end of recorded history. I mean, there's so many of those. We do other movies, we do spin-offs, we do all kinds of stuff in the Patreon. And we're a little bit more loosey-goosey over there on the Patreon, right, Jamie?
Yeah, I think we've discussed it previously as it's kind of like the after party. It's kind of like, this is the main event, but coming over to the Patreon, you're hanging out with us backstage, right? Which is what all anyone really wants, is to hang out with me and Sam in a tiny room with some hummus.
Somebody said to me the other day, when we come to your gig in December, can we have backstage passes? And I just pissed myself laughing. I was like, there's no fucking backstage. We just sit in my car for 20 minutes before I play. So come shiver in the car park with us on Patreon.
Yeah.
You can also tell your friends, spreading the word that this exists really helps because the algorithm doesn't. So be a bud, be a human, and get out there and shout about it. What else, Jamie? What have I missed?
One more thing that you can do is that you can open up whatever you're listening to this on right now and just pop a little 5 stars on there. Maybe write a little review. I didn't like Street Trash, but I liked this podcast. I'm not going to say what was falling out of my mouth then.
Just do it. Just write a review. Come on. It's not hard. Just fucking tell us how you feel. Maybe, if you're lucky, no, I'm not going to say what I was going to say either.
Just do it. Just write us a little review.
You could have done it by now. Come on, man. Get your thumbs out. Do it.
Yeah. Okay, so now, Sam, let's talk about Bronson's death.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean,
it is really good.
I think it's fucking great. It's teed up really well. There's a whole build up to this, but basically, Fred's brother, who is so forgettable, I can't even remember his name, he collapses into a pile of generic gas canisters that are comically huge.
Yeah.
They're probably real gas canisters, right? And he aims one at Bronson as he's leering over Wendy about to do something despicable, and does the classic, like, taps the end off, and it fires like a rocket and just destroys his entire, like, main mast from his belly button. Basically, like, I don't know how to describe it even. Like, he loses his head, the vast majority of his shoulders, his chest, all the way down to his abdomen. Stays standing, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And the gore is just, like, blasted out of his back all over the junkyard. We get a great head hitting the concrete and rolling away scene. It's fucking beautiful. I love that scene.
I do too. I'm sort of a bit disappointed that his head survives.
But the head has, like, a great expression on its face, and it blinks and it does a thing.
Yeah.
I think that makes up for it.
I think it's paid off by Wendy jumps over it, and the last thing that Bronson sees is up her skirt.
Oh my God. When it happened, I think I was so overwhelmed with the audacity of what I was seeing that I fucking blanked out of my memory. His severed head is laying on the floor. She skips over it, and he fucking stares up her skirt. His severed head. Oh, it's amazing.
I sort of pictured you, like, standing up and saluting at that moment.
I think I might have, like, tried to applaud, but, like, missed my hands. I was in a fucking ecstasy at that moment. I was losing my shit. It was so perfect.
Did you have
my sense of humor.
Did you have a big cummy stain on the front of your jeans and the cat came and
Yeah,
licked
the
it
dog
up?
was there. This movie's like a Blink-182 song, but with, like, none of the fun. Like, it's that scene was, and to drop that at the very end of a movie is so unorthodox.
Yeah.
Normally you don't do something that stupid in the big grand finale of a movie like this, which isn't pitched or billed as a comedy horror movie, is it really?
Well, I think it is.
Yeah, but it's not like Scary Movie. It's not a spoof. It's not like, but that is, but again, like, do you know what really fucking gets me? That is shot so well. It's so beautifully shot. It's like the severed head reminds me of like Bishop's severed head in Alien. And the leaping over is in beautiful slow-mo at a great angle. It's just magic. It might be one of my favorite scenes of its type that I've ever seen.
Wow.
The best horror movie upskirt I've ever seen.
It's funny, isn't it? Because this movie is bookended by like lowest common denominator garbage, and also is filled with that too. But like, it starts with a guy getting a fart in his face, and it ends with a severed head peeking up the skirt of a young Chinese girl. Like, okay. I mean, I love that, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I love the escalation. I think the whole movie is an escalation to that moment, to be honest. Like, all of my notes are just getting bigger and bigger and in more caps and with more underlining and more exclamation marks. And that just tells me everything I need to know about the pacing of this movie. And I stopped writing at that point. I was just like, fuck, I can't write and applaud at the same time. Like,
I can't write. I've got my hand on my heart. I am saluting Bronson's death. Da, 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 da.
But it also works because we want him to die. This is the thing, right? I hate being shortchanged with a big bad's death.
Yeah.
I love it when they die in a way that is wholly appropriate. I'm going to bring it back, dude. Your lifestyle determines your death style. And they nail it with Bronson here.
Yeah. You've not said that for at least 2 episodes. So
I've not said it for at least 20 minutes. I think it's important that you send a guy like him off in spectacular fashion. And for a movie that has delivered so hard on the practical effects and has almost done itself out of a job by the end of the movie in terms of how we're destroying people, to really send it home in that way, I had to fucking lift my hat. Just a superb ending to a pretty fucking crazy movie.
Yeah. Do you think the post-credit scene or the scene that happens over the credits or whatever, do you think that cheapens it?
I think it's utterly pointless. I don't think the only pulled punch is that you don't see the mafia guy melt, but then you do see a lot of the dialogue and some good physical acting from the Goomba squad. So I would say no. It's just cheeky. It's a cheeky little move at the end of the movie. You don't expect it.
I think it's dumb because for one reason and one reason only. So the doorman is there and he's in handcuffs. And they're like, oh, blah, 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 stuff. And then they're like, hey, you've got a bottle here. You're drinking on the job. You guys, you didn't search him. The bottle is just like cradled in his arms because there was obviously an afterthought. They were just like...
Because he's cuffed, yeah.
They were just like, oh, let's do a funny scene where we haven't got an effect for it. It's all right, just do it off camera. Make some gurgle noises. Like,
yeah, just lay on the floor and gurgle.
Like, they literally just had an idea and they were like, okay, let's do that. And that's the end of the movie now.
Yeah, I think it's a test. If you're still picking apart the logic of this movie by the credits, you're not looking at the right shit. Because the fucking doorman, who is just this like comic foil, steps forward like he's the new mafia boss. He's saying like, I'm gonna run this shit now.
I'm the Don now.
Two guys next to you are like lifers in the mafia. They've ground up from nothing. And you're the fucking doorman and you're just stepping forward like, oh, it's my town now. Like, that's the thing. If you're still picking shit like that apart, like I was in the credits, you haven't been watching the right shit. If you just let it fucking happen, then it's a fucking good time.
Yeah, fair dues. I mean,
dumb as a shoe. Makes no sense.
I'm always happy for more James Lawrence, so...
Yeah, there's no reason to cut that out. Like, you know, everything else you've kept in this movie, that's not the thing you should cut.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. Keeps people in their seats. You know, I don't have this vitriol for post-credit scenes and inventive things happening in the credits in movies like a lot of people do today. I think people get way too jaded too quickly about stuff like that. And, you know, to see something like this, which was relatively novel for the time, I would imagine, it just feels like it's almost like bloopers. Here's some fucking B-reel stuff while you're, you know, eating the last of your popcorn. Get the fuck out.
Is there a post-credit scene in The Farmer?
Yes, of course there is. There's a pre, during, and post-credit scene in The Farmer.
Yeah, okay.
I've already named the sequel, by the way.
Go on.
So there's going to be something that happens in The Farmer.
Is it The Farmer 2? table. Farmer to table.
Farm to table. Oh my god. That's so much better. Okay, I've named the third one in the trilogy. The third, so there's something that happens in the second where the water supply ends up being drugged by an overturned truck full of like pills that melt into the water supply. So number 3, the farmer becomes he gets like gigantified by the drugs in the water system, and it's
Big
called
Farmer.
Big Farmer.
Yes.
Pretty good. Pretty good. We're doing a Kevin Smith right now, aren't we? This is going to be over the credits of some fucking garbage horror movie in 5 years' time.
Are you calling Tusk garbage?
No, Tusk rips. Yoga Hosers, unforgivably bad.
Tusk rips. And if you want to know the origin of this farmer stuff, then you need to listen to our recent Patreon episode about things that scared us as kids.
Yeah, you got to join the Patreon to unriddle this little mystery, Scooby-Doo style. And there's going to be more from the farmer down the road in the Patreon. So, I don't know. Treat yourself. It's Christmas. Is it? I don't know. Who cares?
It's December.
Yeah, sure.
So, Sam, give us your final thoughts and score this rad boy.
I'm going to... so, my final thoughts. This was... challenging in all the right ways, fun in all the wrong ways, and spectacular to look at. I really, really enjoyed the movie. I probably would revisit it, in fairness. Definitely one that you want to show your friends for very niche reasons. But I'm going to give it 10 sloppy splats of jelly-like goo on the New York sidewalk out of 13. I think it's pretty fucking cool.
I completely agree. Like I said at the jump, like this is basically everything that I want from a movie. Like it, low budget, high energy, looks great, big ideas, horrible gore, people that kind of know what they're doing, but not so much that it gets in the way.
Yep.
Like there's still room for like exploration and doing stuff in a way that a professional filmmaker would never do because it's fucking stupid to do it that way. There's that one.
Absolutely.
There's that one shot where the camera like 360s like over.
Yep.
It's fucking insane. Like who would do
that?
that?
Vertical 360 when the guy's the liquor store owner's about to melt. Yeah, superb.
It's fucking incredible. Like
yeah, and we've seen that in other movies, but to place it there and then have the crawling away with the drone, it's all just constructed really well.
Yeah. So I mean, tonally, it's all over the place. It doesn't have any real internal logic. There's no consistency of performances or anything like that. But that all adds to this sort of batshit, weird, should I be watching this? Yeah, I should. It's fucking hilarious. Ooh, should I be watching this bit? Maybe not. Okay, it's funny again. It's fine. It gets maximum splats from me. Like 15 out of 15 licks from me.
Maximum splats. Well, I knew from the second I started watching it that you were gonna absolutely love it, and that helps my enjoyment of it, knowing that somebody else who I love loves it. So a wholly rewarding experience, despite, like you said, a lot of fuck ups. But ain't that life?
Yeah, I think it's just sort of magic that you can make something great wrong, and like it'd still be great.
Yeah, and you can forgive the naivety of some of it. You can forgive the cynicism of some of it. You can forgive the lack of thought and context and the ham-fisted nature of some of it, because ultimately, I respect the craft here. I think there's lots of things being done really well, and ultimately, it's fucking entertainment, people. Chill out.
Yeah. Like, they're not trying to say anything. Or if they are, they've garbled it.
Yeah, and if anything, I think they're not trying to say anything, and they do a great job of saying nothing with this movie. It's not sending you home with anything, really, apart from a big smile on your face if you're lucky.
Yeah. I think the worst thing that this film could have done is do like a Jerry's final thoughts at the end and be like, we've had a lot of laughs at homeless people today, but...
Oh, God. Yeah. I respect that they didn't do that, definitely. Yeah. Nobody's watching this... Or I don't know, maybe I can't speak for anyone, but nobody's watching this thinking they're going to get, some kind of late 80s treatise on, the injustice of displaced people veterans, the mentally ill, people experiencing houselessness, etc. Nobody is watching this movie thinking that. They're watching it because they want to watch a bum explode.
Yeah, if you do want to watch that movie, what would you recommend for what's a good?
Good question.
Like I want to say Suburbia, but it's a bit more like that's middle class squatters rather than like actual unhoused people. What was the documentary about all the people that lived living
in the subways and the sewers? Yeah, I was going to say that, but I can't remember what it's called.
Is it called The Dark or something like that?
Something like that.
The tunnel. There's something.
I don't know. Maybe it hasn't been done particularly well. It's an incredibly challenging, nuanced subject that far more intelligent people need to deal with than the production crew of the movie Street Trash.
I've got it. It's Steve Buscemi's character in Big Daddy.
Fuck yeah. Well, what a great movie. Well, shit me, Jamie. That's Street Trash.
That is Street Trash.
You want to say goodnight to the people?
Good night, people. Stay off the Tenafly Viper. Or don't.
You can avoid it.
Pay more than $1 for your fortified wine.
What's the least amount? What's the lowest you've ever paid for booze, do you think?
I mean, does shoplifting count?
Sure.
Because free is free, right? I mean, we used to drink a lot back in the day when we first met, like in those early days of us knowing each other. When I lived with Adam, we would drink a lot of terrible cider.
You drank a lot of box wine, if I remember, as well.
Yeah, a lot of box wine. We'd put a sports cap on our 2-litre bottles of cider.
Mm-hmm. Pretty good.
Yeah. What about you?
I once played a show in Vegas at a place called the Beauty Bar, which is no longer there, on Nickel Beer Night.
Nice.
So it was fucking carnage. The place got torn to shreds. A nickel for a beer. Oof. It was rough.
Is it nickel is 10 cents?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That is...
Made me fucking think about it for a second there. Yeah. For a large, not a pint, but like an American plastic cup of beer.
I remember on St. David's Day, when I was, 16, there was a pub that was doing £1 pints of terrible ale. And we drank, 7 of them because I had £7.
Yeah.
And that's too many pints if you're 16.
Pound a pint is, asking for trouble. We used to go to a pub that was pound a pint all the time, and it never ended well. One time it ended in me, and this can't go in the podcast, P.S. I ran away.
Nice.
Out of a window, just like, and then legged it out the back.
So that was it. We're done, right?
Yep, that was great. That was Street Trash. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. I had a blast. What about you, Jamie?
I had a great time. If you've got opinions, let me know.
Let me know.
I feel like, should we share the email address so people can email us if they have things they want to tell us?
Yeah, sure. You better share it because I don't even know it.
So you can email us if you've got an opinion that you want to share. Maybe we'll read it to ourselves and snigger. I don't know. Maybe we'll do, if we get enough, maybe we'll do a mailbag episode at some point in the future.
I love a good mailbag episode. Yeah, email us. We'll make it worth your while.
Yeah, so email us at finaltransmissionpod@gmail.com.
Yep, email us. We will do something with them.
Yeah.
And with you.
We will... Yeah, I can't think of anything funny. It's 9:30.
Fucking hell, lad. That was long.
Yeah.
Sleep well, buds.
Bye, pals.